Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines, coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast, and we are looking at the Lakers and Celtics historic matchup. We'll take a look at some of the player props and best bets available in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to the page, as we've got a couple other videos up on this small NBA Tuesday night slate as well. Nate's got his article up on playpicks.com with those best bets and player props as well. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, the nightcap is Lakers hosting the Celtics, and they're 2-point favorites at home. The total's continuing to climb now. It started at 216 and is at 220.5 already, because there are a lot of numbers that would indicate over. So we'll see if we like where that closes by the time this video posts, if you still like that action. But a lot of people are liking it. Looking at the other two games, we got Nets -4 at Mavericks. Total of 218 there. That's climbed a little bit as well. And then the Spurs are +2 at home against the Knicks, and that total sitting at 211. Spurs are on a back-to-back there, so interesting to consider that one. This Lakers-Celtics game, though, I mean, the over is climbing for good reason, I guess, because the Celtics, after their ugly win against Philly at home, hit the road, total 267 with Utah, and then dropped 145 points in a win at Portland. And Portland's usually pretty good at defense at home. Jaylen Brown did not play in either of those games, which definitely hurts their defense and seems to be helping their offense because it's unlocked Jason Tatum. Just some absurd numbers. I mean, we've been harping on this since the season started, Josh, that it's just a really awkward fit between the two of those guys. And Tatum just not comfortable, apparently, when Jaylen Brown is playing. His offensive rating is 92. He averages 21 points per game, shoots 23% from three. When Jaylen Brown has not played, his offensive rating is 117. He averages 30 and shoots 40% from three. Tatum has thrived on these West Coast road trips since, the last couple seasons. He's got 30 plus in 7 of his last 8 against the West. So if he's cooking, that's when the Celtics become a completely different team. When they're able to get into these type of shootouts, you could look at his prop of 27.5 points as kind of a starting point. Now, Jaylen Brown might be ready to play for this game. He was basically just resting an ailing hamstring, and he might say, I want to come out and defend LeBron James. That doesn't necessarily mean the Celtics won't be able to score against the Lakers, because everybody's been able to score against the Lakers, giving up a league-high 113.5 at home. They've gone over in 7 of their last 8. And it's not an efficiency problem. It's really just their pace of play. They're the 4th fastest team at home. And somehow their defense has been worse when LeBron's active. Their offense, way, way better, 7 more points per game. That's why everybody seems to expect over. If it continues to rise like this, I would either tease it down and get the Celtics up to +6, or just kind of look at getting the Celtics to cover with another game. We talk about the Nets, getting them to pick them. The Celtics have covered in 6 straight against the Lakers. They've been underdogs in almost all of those games. And the underdog has straight up won 4 of the last 5 Lakers games this season. They have not delivered when they're supposed to. So I would definitely trust the Celtics to come out and play better, especially on the offensive end, and take their team total of 109.5 as a starting point against the Lakers team that's just giving up a ton of points.
They do give up a ton of points. They also score a ton of points, right? In their last 7 or so, 3rd in the league in scoring. And you look at what they do at home, it's similar to those Spurs we talked about in a separate video. Everything just rises at home. And weirdly enough, with LeBron, that defensive rating goes up, which, we've talked about him being necessary for them to be able to play any kind of defense this year, as, he's at the ripe age that he's at, needs to basically drag this team on defense with his athleticism. And I think he sort of said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to essentially sell out with what this team is. And maybe be a little bit more like Russ's Wizards from last year than the Lakers from last year, right? That's basically what they traded, as we've talked about multiple times. You traded all their wing defense to be able to get, Russ Westbrook on this team and a bunch of 3-point shooters and Carmelo Anthony. So, if that's the strength of your team, then the only way to really pull out victories is to just outscore those teams. And yeah, I think it's really mostly about what happens with Jaylen Brown tonight. I mean, he does make a huge impact on the defensive end, but you also just look at how the offense sort of gets, a little bit closed off when there's just two guys trying to do, the same thing from the same spot on the floor. So it's not that surprising that they have, Jason Tatum's numbers go way up when Jaylen Brown is out. I think, I'm actually looking at the team total for the Lakers, because I do think that, the Celtics are going to have to sell out a bit, as well as I don't think they'll be able to lock up on defense the way that they have. And when they've been good this year, right, that's been a little bit more of their bread and butter, is what they're able to do on defense, as their numbers and their wins and their losses are very stark and different in terms of the amount that they're, the points that they give up versus score. They're giving up about 115 points a game in those losses and 108 in those wins. And I think if they want the win tonight, they're going to have to try to chop this thing up and slow it down. But that's not going to work against a Lakers team that's just going to keep running and play at the pace that they've been playing at. So I think I actually do like the Lakers in this one because of the questionable aspect of Jaylen Brown in terms of what the chances are for the Celtics to win. Brown helps that. What are the chances for in terms of the chances for the Celtics to score? Somehow Brown needs to be out for that offense to open up. So I think that's a little bit of how you play the total tonight, is based on where he's at and his impact on the offense and on Jason Tatum. But more regardless of whether he plays or not, I do feel better about the Lakers tonight and their recent success that they've had, at least in beating certain teams. I don't consider the Celtics a very good team, and as a result, I think it's the Lakers being able to beat up on bad teams since LeBron is in the lineup. Unlike when they lost a couple of games to Thunder and he wasn't playing for at least one of those, so.
Yeah, we did just expect them to beat the Clippers, and you saw what happened when they face a team that gets up to play them. Somehow the Clippers won, even though Paul George did almost nothing. So the Lakers finding ways to lose definitely doesn't give me a lot of faith in them finally covering against the Celtics. But yeah, I like your point. Just watching Jaylen Brown, if he's out, hit that over. I like just kind of looking at the stars in this matchup. I think we will have an entertaining game that has a lot of points. First of all, the Lakers are an older team, and so they've gone over 13 out of 20 times with the rest advantage this last season. So that's another point that says, these guys will be ready to score. They've all gotten up for this kind of matchup. AD has 25 points in 9 of his last 10 versus Boston. Bron has 27 plus in 7 straight home games versus Boston.
Yeah.
Russ has not done well in this matchup, but has 20 plus in 6 of his last 7 overall, because the Lakers just ask him to push it, and he can get his buckets there. So seeing where those guys are at, when the lines close there. I'm also looking at Al Horford, because if Jalen's not going to play a lot of minutes, or even if he is, I think you got to put Al on AD and if you put Jalen on LeBron. And he's been coming on strong lately, very efficient, 56, 40, 100% splits, and averaging 16 and 8 and 4 assists, playing 30 minutes. And his props are pretty low at 19.5 points, rebounds, or 22.5 if you throw in assists there. I like him to get over that there. And as I mentioned, Jason Tatum to score in this matchup if Brown is out. But the team total for me is the best bet on the board right now. You're actually getting better odds for the Celtics to go over than the Lakers. But what I've seen from their offense the last 2 games in Utah and Portland tells me that they can get 110 points in this one.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And yeah, once again, eyeing Jaylen Brown's status and obviously how that impacts Tatum. I know you like Horford there. I would definitely continue to feel good about Tatum in this one if there's no Jaylen Brown tonight. And then LeBron James as well. I think you mentioned, he gets up for the Celtics, and I think that'll be the case again here. His point props at 24.5 is something that I would consider on the Lakers side. I do think that he'll be doing a good amount of scoring tonight, and that we'll see a good amount of points as well, as we mentioned. So. And before we go, thanks for sticking with us to make sure you were in here for when we give you that gift card opportunity. Going to go ahead and make it the combined points of LeBron James and Jason Tatum tonight. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page to be eligible to jump in the comments and let us know that combined total of King James and Jason Tatum. And we'll get a gift card out to as many people as guess it right. But that is all the time we have for today, y'all. We'll continue to roll on this week as we look at this nice, fun little slate tonight. Be able to watch probably all 3 of these games. And until we see you next, happy betting.